Welcome to the sixth 6 weeks curriculum preview. Hey, we've made it. Great job, everybody. Give yourselves a round of applause for a great year. I know we haven't had STAR yet, but I know that you are doing a great job to get everybody ready, and I hope that this last 6 weeks will just be the best ever. So let's take a look at what the expectations will be. For Unit 6, we want kids at a level P and have the same minutes that we've had all year long about the independent reading time and guided reading time. But one of the expectations this 6 weeks is they're going to apply the reading strategies to gather information on a research topic, because we will be the lead standard. This 6 weeks is research. So the reading expectations, once again, so important for them to be reading and responding to the reading that they're doing. So reading responses, these are things you've seen before, getting grades from the rubric from independent reading, getting a grade from literary responses. Your tic-tac-toe is that, giving you that, it's not a have to, but it just kind of gives you some things to look at and to know about with reading responses. I like this one, and we really do need to focus in on writing in cursive at least 90% of the time, really holding kids to the accountability of writing. Then with your PDSA, get that how are you growing as a reader out. Like, I'm going to give you some tools about what to do with that to work with growing as a reader. So just remember, there's no substitutes for eyes on text reading. I want to ask you to look at this 6 weeks and say to yourself, who is doing the work? The students must be doing the work. So independent reading level in their Just Right books are just, it's just so very important. Dawn is got some social studies previews that listed in her preview for you to look at. Once you did them in small groups, then you would send them off with them and put them in their book bags. Just some great plethora of stuff. So how are you going to get that information, and how are you going to get grades? I'm going to tell you that running records or the reading records are the best way to know where your kids are. So a running record is when you open up a book and you just have on a sheet of paper, you mark and make the marks that the kids are saying, and when they make a mistake, you kind of record it without the text. A reading record is what you see here on the screen, where you have the words of the book and you are marking as it goes along, and you're thinking about as after you do those, making sure, marking their errors, but then going back and looking at the errors and saying, is this a meaning error? Is this a structure error? Or is this a visual error? Kind of really looking at what are kids doing when they're reading. And a running record or reading record will give you that. But the other thing on this screen is the reading process designed by Jamie Smith, which gives you 3 grades with the running record. And it's a great thing to send home. So after they've done the running record or reading record, you look at the use of strategies that that child did. So the effective strategies, so however many times, if he rereads, every time he rereads, you put a tally mark. So if he self-corrects or she self-corrects, you put a tally mark. So then you also take a look at the ineffective structures and put a tally mark when that student or child makes that mark. So how you get this grade up here is the number of effective strategies used is divided by the number of strategies used in all, ineffective and effective. So that gives you that grade. Then you have an accuracy grade, the number of reads correctly, number of words read in all. And usually these are like between 100 and 120. You just take that small pieces. So a running record is very quick. It's not the whole book. And then you can get a fluency grade. So you have 3 grades with 1 running record. Then you could also, after the child has or student has done the reading record or running record, then you send them on to finish the rest of the book. And then they come back and you ask specific questions, either have them write a summary about the book or ask them to retell the book, ask for details about the book, and get a comprehension grade. So there you have 4 grades in one time. And also, I believe a parent will understand what this means when you send this with it. But if you're having an end-of-year conferences, nothing would please a parent more than you to sit down with, I read with your child, and this is what I saw them do. So a running record is so vital. So let's get going on our word study. Let's look at you know that we are studying 10 to 12 vocabulary words per 6 weeks. And um, just using the reading notebook and having them really think about the vocabulary. You might even, this last 6 weeks, is let them choose their own vocabulary for their reading, coming to words they don't know and choosing that word and figuring out what that word is would be very beneficial. So there, it's really maybe having a word bank of their very own. So that's a thought. So the other word study that you'll have is the English word study, week 31, 32, high frequency with abstract vowels. Week 33, 34, words with CHTH. You see all the resources there in the English word study. And then 35 and 36, words with GE and DGE. So it shows you there. And then, of course, you have your spell check. One of the things you really want to focus on is grade 3 words in a snap and grade 1 through 3 homophones and misused words. Make sure these are in their reading notebooks that go home over the summer and just really talk to them about how important it is for um, for them to really know these skills and these words. Of course, once again, your academic vocabulary, and you're going to see that the academic vocabulary has some really important words like paraphrasing, plagiarism, reliable sources, research, works cited page. So those are some of the important vocabulary that you're going to have this 6 weeks that they really need to understand what those mean. So, the leading standard for reading for the 6 weeks is research gathering sources. And then your partnering standards are independent reading with poetry and resource. You are going to be looking at complex consonants and abstract vowels and then sight words. So, that basically is your standards for this 6 weeks. Um, I love that this is the poetry is this 6 weeks. Um, just there's so many rich poems out there, and as you do research, you might show students how poets have used their research skills to really create the poems, and these are two of the books that you could use as well. And it also is, April is National Poetry Month, so I went out, this is the link to the Celebrate National Poetry Month, and here are some different ways that after STAR you might want to celebrate poetry. Let the kids really do some great things around poetry. I would love to come out, and after maybe they've made have a poetry week and have a celebration, love to do that with you and celebrate that with you. So I know you're getting ready for STAR, so let's discuss some strategies that you might use with kids that they already know. The 3 kinds of thinking, figure 19D. Using the note taking with them in their independent reading time, modeling that for them. Because if you look at STAR, you can see that every question is either within the text, beyond the text, or about the text. And I know that most of you have taken a mock exam by now, so go back and look at that mock exam and look at each question and say, is this within the text, beyond the text, or about the text? And evaluate how your kids did with that. A lot of times you will find that your gifted kids miss more within the text because maybe they're not paying a close attention to the detail. So those are just some good points to use there. Use freeze time at least once a week to color code 2 paragraphs to determine how the writer uses freeze time techniques. That really helps your kids to slow down and focus on what the author is really talking about. Using those with passages would be great. Modeling the 3-box plan with a passage is getting kids to and explicitly modeling that for them about going through that whole process to see the theme or to see the summary of a particular passage, because that is one that is on the STAR all the time, is what's the best summary. So using the 3-box planner and working around that with the passage would help kids to really understand what is the best summary. Now, looking at your comprehension toolkit, because the comprehension toolkit, you might say, oh, we're already through with all that. But comprehension toolkit is not just a one-time, we've done it. It's a rinse and repeat. This lesson 10 is inferred meaning with vocabulary. This would be a great tool for them to use before STAR, of looking at the word, what's the text clues around it, what's the inferred meaning, and what's the actual meaning. So that would help them because we know they're going to face that on STAR, but it's just a good reading strategy altogether. Lesson 15, wrap your mind around the big ideas. This is about using text features. So you look at the evidence. This is the sheet that comes with that lesson. They look at the evidence and then they decide on the theme. So explicitly teaching that and then taking that into their independent reading time with their own reading would be amazing. The last book, Summarize and Synthesize, is really a great tool for you to use before STAR. Lesson 26 is about creating a summary response to extend the thinking. This is the text that goes along with the lesson, the comeback humpbacks. I got it out of Keep Reading in the Comprehension Toolkit. But any of those lessons, any of the articles or anything within the comprehension toolkit be used, or even your passages you could use this with fiction and nonfiction as well. So a rinse and repeat of those lessons. So there's that one again. All right, so now that you've looked at STAR and once STAR is over, let's begin the research. And this is the one that Dawn and I are so excited about because we want you to combine what is social studies this 6 weeks. It's about authors and how they've contributed, and writers and how they've contributed to our society. So using the research. And I have this picture of the librarian because one of your standards, the 327A, talks about students are expected to improve their focus of research as a result of consulting expert sources like librarians. So use use your librarians because they know that process of research, and I'm sure they've already talked to your kids about that. But in Birdville, we use the Big Six, and your librarians know so much about it. So that's a great way for you to begin, is having them come in and talk to them about it. So as you're looking at task definition, that very first one, you could start off the lesson by reading the quote, "It is not what we get, but who we become, what we contribute, that gives meaning to our lives." And then discuss the importance of contributing. What does that mean? Who benefits the most? And then explain that people make contributions in many ways. And then that could lead you right into that author's work that social studies has you doing. So task 1 is generating those questions. So look at the guided questions for your social studies unit 6. How do writers and artists contribute to the central heritage of their communities? How does a piece of literature or a piece of music impact the world in a positive way? Why are music and literature important to our community? The other person that you could get involved here is your music teacher, because they are so vital to this. Would be a great place for that expert to come into play. And here are some of the ones that Dawn has for you to look at in the social studies unit. So looking at 2 and 3, information seeking strategies and location. So here's where you ask your librarian to come in. You follow the research plan. You could use interviews, data, online searches. And so as I looked at what Dawn has for you in her curriculum preview, your Pearson My World Chapter 8 hits, and then these are the different websites if a child wanted to take a specific artist or writer. And then Discovery Education has so many great things. So there's your location and your access, but using skimming and scanning techniques to identify data by looking at the text features. And then this last one is so very important, and your librarians would be so great to do this, to really talk to your kids about paraphrasing and plagiarism and identify the importance of citing valid and reliable sources. So here's that academic vocabulary that is so very important. And really, either you or the librarian needs to show them how not to just copy and paste out of a website. How do you take information and paraphrase it to be your own words? And then how do you cite that? So that's very important. So as you go on with the research and you get all that, this is where writing comes in, is that they're going to organize and present their ideas. And they're expected to draw a conclusion and write a brief written explanation and create a works cited page, all right, with the author, title, publisher, and publication year. So they're going to be looking at that, and then we want them to publish. And then we really want them to be at a stage 8 or 9 and 10 would be great for those 4th grade writing teachers next year. So let's take a look at use data gathering for note taking. So you see the standards here, and we've already talked about those. this is just one chart that I found about how you collect it. I really believe that our kids, their note cards are kind of hard for them, but if you take a big piece of manila paper and divide it into six different quadrants, and then put the guiding question at the top, and as each child goes through each resource, they paraphrase what that resource said and then cite it on that paper. So that's their gathering of notebooks. So that's just one of the strategies I used when I was in the classroom, and it worked real well. And it's just a big planner like that, and they keep that in their folder, so all their information is right there when they need it. And then after they gather that information, you're really going to still use the three-box planner to organize it, for them to use expository writing to tell you about that, and then they'll use their freeze time to develop those main ideas of each of the paragraphs, and then stop to look at and use their editing and revising. So then in independent writing, they're going to be taking all of this work and then creating a writing for you on what they've done. And then we definitely want to have a celebration and reflection each day of who's doing some great work with research each day when you're doing that. One of the other standards that you have this 6 weeks is persuasive writing. And the best way to me to really show students how to do that is use an anchor chart to introduce it. Why do we have persuasive writing? We want to convince somebody to do something, or make somebody believe in something, or change somebody's mind. And so you'd want to talk about that, and then you would want to show them different persuasive letters. And you want to model maybe explicitly with maybe writing a persuasive letter to your librarian to buy literature that's your favorite and why she should do that. Or then with the students, brainstorm different ideas that are relevant to them. What is something that you feel very powerful or empowered to write to? It could even be as simple as, you really want mom and dad to buy season tickets to Six Flags, so let's try to persuade them. So what over the summer do they want to persuade their parents to do that's fun? So that's some ideas about persuasive writing. So as you end your research, I want to just tell you, I really believe that we need, because of the standards, they need to write a piece, but then let them choose some sort of digital means or different ways to show their research off. They could make a brochure, they could do a website, a video, or they could even do slides in Google Drive. They could actually do their research in Google Slides. And I know that your digital learning folks would be more than happy to help you with that. You might want to look at this, using Google Slides to organize research. I think kids would really enjoy that. So good luck this last 6 weeks. Just know that you've done all you can do, and just have a great time researching. Dawn and I really would love to come out. If you choose to do the author studies, we would love to come out and celebrate with you with the research. So please let us know and send us pictures. We would love that, and we'd highlight the work that you're doing. So have a great 6 weeks.